I'm heading out on a road trip and I've got some options for what gear that I'm going to bring along. Maybe my decision-making process might be useful to you as you plan your next trip. What do you bring? What stays back at home? My name is Rob Skeoch. I'm a career photographer and I've been shooting professionally for over 45 years and I've been shooting film for over 50 years. Maybe some of these techniques that I've learned as a photographer shooting for Major League Baseball and the NFL, getting published by magazines like Sports Illustrated and even National Geographic, maybe some of these tips will be useful to you as you want to learn about film photography. Alright, so I'm heading out on another trip this week, and it's important to know that the trip itself is not about still photography, it's about video. If you've been following my channel, or maybe you didn't know this, maybe you did, I make part of my living shooting underwater video for other people's nature shows. So I shoot video clips underwater, and then the agency sells them to, you know, National Geographic Channel or Disney Channel or Shark Week or people like that. Now, it's not all sharks, but honestly, it's all sharks. I mean, that's the only thing that sells. So I'm heading to Guadeloupe, which is a French country down in the French Caribbean, and it's a 10-day dive trip to shoot underwater video. But since I'm going, I hope to bring some black and white film. I don't know how much I'll get to shoot with this, but this is the plan. Now, I've got one type of film. It's Ilford FP4. I've got 10 rolls. So I'm going for 10 days. I got a roll a day. Again, the purpose of the trip is not to shoot black and white, but I'm hoping to shoot some while I'm down there. So I've got 10 rolls of FP4. I've already shelled it. It's in a baggie. I'm going to have this in my carry-on. I'm going to hand it to the security guy at the airport, and depending if the stars align or not, he's going to either scan it or do a hand check. I'm going to ask for a hand check. Sometimes everything's great. They're usually quite friendly, and sometimes they just scan it and there's nothing you can do about it. So 10 rolls of FP4. So that's what I'm shooting. One film. Nothing weird here. No infrared that has to be in the canister. No, you know, nothing really strange. So then for the cameras, I'm bringing two big Pelican cases of camera gear for the underwater work. So that's cameras and housings and lenses and macro lenses and different ports that go on them and different lighting setups for video. So those two cases are basically at limit. So they're like 49 pounds each. And then I've got a third case is just dive gear. So things like your t-shirts and your socks, they're just kind of, you know, in between lenses, keeping them cozy and things like that. There's not, you don't get to bring a lot of things besides cameras. I'm already going to be at, with the two divers, we're going to be at 4 checked luggage plus carry-on. So I'm going to be at the limit of what I can carry weight-wise and how much room I have. Now the options for the lenses, I'm bringing a Nikon F3, one camera body. If it dies for some reason, I guess I'm just going to shoot video. I've got 5 lens options. So I've got a 24 f2. Now in my years as being a photojournalist working at newspapers, you know, the 24 f2, that's what you always wanted. Now I can finally afford one, so I've got the 24 f2. There is a 2.8 version, which is sharper, lighter, and less expensive. So that's interesting. So I don't have that. I have the one that's bigger, not quite as sharp, and more expensive. And then I have a 35-1.4. Again, that was a lens as a photojournalist that you always kind of had in one mount or another. And again, there's a 35 f2, which is sharper, lighter, cheaper. Anyways, that's a 35-1.4. And then I have a 50-1.4 basic lens, and I have an 85-1.4, and my favorite lens of them all is the 135-2.8. Now the 50, this is a 1.4. There's a much faster, like 1.2, that I've never used and never owned. There's a slower, they were either an f2 or a 1.8. They kind of went back and forth a little bit. That lens is less expensive, but these lenses, you know, it might have been $10 less on the used market for the f2 version. It is lighter, but this is already pretty light. So I don't mind having a 1.4 with the 50. Now the 85 is interesting. There's an 85 f2, which is lighter, sharper, and less expensive. And it also uses the same filters as the rest of the kit. So these all use a 52 filter. So I like to shoot with an orange filter or a yellow filter. So if I bring the 85, it uses a different filter size. So now I have to bring additional filters. Now the 85 is a wonderful lens, 1.4, so it's nice and sharp. It's kind of a classic portrait length, and it's a great length, a great lens. However, it's big and heavy, and I've only got so much room. So this is kind of part of the problem. And then the 135. Now the 135, there was an F2 version. These are all AIS lenses, so manual focus. These are kind of like from 85, 1990, that kind of era. I heard they still sold some of these recently. They weren't. There was still old stock, I guess, available. At B&H would have like the 50-1.4 and that. Anyways, so the 135 2.8, it's my favorite lens. It's nice and sharp. There is an F2 version, which is the same kind of diameter of this, so the 72 filter. The 135 F2, again, it's just too big. It's too heavy. It takes up too much space. It was too expensive. They were wonderful when you were shooting indoor sports like hockey back in the day, but I don't do any of that anymore, so the 2.8 is really my favorite lens of the group. So we can say that, no matter what's coming, the 135 is coming. I can't duplicate what the 24 does just by backing up. So the 24 might as well come, because you can either shoot it with the 24 or you can't, but you can't back up. You might have to stand in the middle of the road to back up enough. So let's say the 135 and the 24 are coming. Now here's the consideration with these three lenses. I wouldn't bring all three. They're a 35 and a 50 and an 85 are too close if you don't have unlimited space, if you can't bring everything. This isn't really what's in my camera bag. This is what am I bringing on the trip to choose from in the first place. So 35, 50, 85. Now if you leave the 50 at home, then you've got the 85 and the 35. Nice combo. I've used these before. This is a great package to bring along. It's just, I'm afraid it's just going to take up too much space and too much weight, and it's going to just become an issue. So I think the better option, I'm not really a 50 mil guy, but I think my option would be to bring the 50 and leave these two beautiful lenses that I love to use, but they're heavy and they're big and they use different filters. I'd have to bring some more filters if I bring the 85. Probably this is the time when you wish, I wish I bought the 85 F2, or maybe I would buy the 85 F2 as well. I probably wouldn't, but you know what I mean. So if I can fit it in, my plan is going to be to bring the 50, the 24, and the 135. Now, when I pack and I look at everything and how much space I have, it's possible that I might just decide, no, there's enough room for this. So if you're going to bring this, the 85, well, 85 and 50 is too close. So then drop the 50 and bring the 35. So things are a little bit up in the air, but the basic plan is to bring the 50, the 24, and the 135. Again, it's not a photography trip. Well, it's a photography trip, but I'm shooting video underwater, so that's not this gear. I'll leave these two at home. I'll go with this. One camera body. I've never had an issue with the F3. It's never been in for service. If it cops out, I guess I'm done shooting. You could argue, boy, if you had a second camera body, you could just be assured. If it was a black and white trip, I'd bring a second camera body. But it's a video trip, and this is just extra. And it's already taken up too much space, adding too much weight. We'll see how we do.